Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to access the district assessments for end of unit exams that have been modified and shortened a little bit so that they won't take as many class periods and still will measure the correct standards for the unit. In prior years, we've learned that assigning the tests just kind of the first way they're designed potentially is not probably the best move, as we'll have multiple class periods and a really long test and perhaps even some standards that were not part of instruction from that exact unit. So those have been trimmed and already available. And it's important that you would assign those as opposed to the ones that exist already pre-built in StudySync in the unit design. And I need to show you a specific way to find those what we call revised tests. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and show you both the non-revised and the revised version so you'll recognize them when you come across them. Okay, so the first thing to know is that when you're in StudySync and you're in the units and you're going through the core ELA path, when you open that path, the very last tab from the very start of your using this unit is ready to tell you about the end of unit assessment and even provide it to you as an example. So by going to that tab, you can go in yourself and preview and learn about some of the skills that you're working toward in that unit, some of the text and some of the ideas that you might think best to hint at as we're going toward the end of the unit. Okay, what you do need to know though, is I'll go in and show you this preview, is there's two ways you can see it. And if you go to teacher when grading, which is handy, and just start this test as a preview, at the very bottom, you will find, let's see if I can get my screen to go down there with us, that standards are indicated for each question, and they're in the Missouri Learning Standard language. You can hover over them and they will even tell you what they mean. I think you have to click on them. So really you could, before you even are giving this test, go through and preview some of the goals that you think you're preparing students for. Okay, so I'm going to go out of there and say done grading. But what I'll also point out in a different view, close that screen, done grading, and exit out. All right, and I'm going to go back and show you how to find the one that is revised and a little bit smaller. Just going to show you that there were a lot of sections to this test. Let me see if I can show you that in a different way. It's going slow for me all of a sudden. So teacher when grading, I'm going to come back to this section again, just so I can show you that there are multiple pieces, 41 questions, in fact, in the original version. And so one of the reasons I would do some trimming. If I go way out here until some of the later questions, I also want to show you that some of those questions start turning into things that we could come back to and definitely visit in specific tests and include. But a lot of these portions are about the revision standard. You can see how they're labeled as W3AC or W3AB. And so those were places that we could go ahead and pull some of those questions, save them for more review, save them for a different assessment down the road. That way you're having fewer reading passages and we got to keep the writing component. So each one of these assessments also features a small writing component where they are to utilize the readings from this assessment and answer the prompt related to those readings. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the long story short, how to go find those tests, the ones that have been revised and are a little bit smaller. Okay, so I went back to just plain old StudySync in the left corner. That got me home, saw my name. I felt like, okay, this is starting from scratch. Gonna go into Assess tab. Okay, under Assess tab, I could do a couple things. I could go to Filter. I could choose my grade level. And then I could just start typing in what I'm gonna teach you to do here is KCPS. And if I do that, just that alone, picking the grade level and typing in something that would be modified with KCPS at the front, will give you all of the unit assessments 1 through 4 that we modified in the past. So again, you can go in those just because they're sitting there and you can see the standards that are aligned to it. You can pick through the questions. You can see that it was a version that was created and modified by myself. And then that way you'll know that you're giving the right one, and it does say revised on the end. And it also says KCPS to start it off. Other study sync assessments that have not been modified won't say KCPS on them. Okay, so in giving that assessment, you'll go up to actions, you'll use for new test assignment, and you'll give as you would give any other test or assignment, bearing in mind that it is a test. And so giving it for a week-long deadline is probably not your goal for test security purposes. Remember this year that there is a feature called live proctoring, so that while students are testing, you can witness their efforts. That way that they know you are monitoring the test as to how long it takes. You can also watch for trends as far as which questions people are skipping over or everyone getting wrong. When you do give this test yourself, I would suggest that students find out the total score, but also perhaps the day after submission. You really don't want to give this test out, and you do have these features that you could turn back on, but you really don't want to give this test out so that students see the information about their test, because you'll be giving the test throughout the rest of the day and perhaps the next day for makeup testing. So once I've made all those choices and I've given it a particular goal, if you wanted to turn on a time limit, you could do so. It's generally not what we do. As most practice here in our district is that if you have as long as you need until you complete the test, and we just work to make sure students are doing their darndest and continuing to push, and we're there to support. Also notice that as I set this test date, because it's a test, you can also pick the times of day that the test turns on. And that way you can set it for only the time where your students are with you, present, and in your classroom, ensuring again that there's nothing going on that you're not aware of related to that test. Once I do so, I will just click create test, which I'm not going to do, or it will launch this test out there to Central Middle, and they will be confused why I gave them a test. All right, so that's how you get the tests into the ability for you to send them out was just simply for you to locate them by going to assess. Remember, we went into filter, we chose our grade level, and then I really just added the first word KCPS to my search, and I discovered the revised tests that way. Okay, we're going to stop share until you have a great day. Hope it's been helpful. Thank you.